He saved more lives than almost any doctor in history, and they locked him in an asylum for it. Meet Ignaz Semmelweis, the man who discovered something so simple, so obvious, that doctors should wash their hands, and got destroyed for saying it out loud. He proved it with numbers, he proved it with results. Mortality rates dropping from 18% to 0. But the medical world didn't see a hero. They saw an insult. And what happened to him next is one of the darkest, most ironic stories in the history of science. Ignaz Semmelweis. You've probably never heard the name, but if a doctor has ever washed their hands before touching you, you felt the impact of his life. Here's the strange part, though. The man who gave us this idea, something so basic we teach it to 5-year-olds, wasn't celebrated for it. He was destroyed by it. So today we're finding out how one observation turned a brilliant doctor into an outcast, and why the medical world fought so hard against something that was, quite literally, saving lives. Okay, so picture Vienna in 1846. The General Hospital has a maternity clinic split into 2 divisions. In the first, deliveries are handled by doctors and medical students. In the second, by midwives. And the numbers between them are terrifying. In the first, somewhere around 13 to 18% of new mothers are dying. In the second, barely 2%. Same hospital, same disease, completely different outcomes. Women are so afraid of the first division that some literally beg to give birth in the street instead. This disease has a name, childbed fever, and right now nobody can explain it. When a young Hungarian doctor named Ignaz Semmelweis is appointed assistant in the first division, he inherits this mystery and becomes obsessed with solving it. His first attempts are almost comical in hindsight. He notices women in the first division give birth on their backs, women in the second on their sides, so he changes the position. Nothing happens. He notices a priest walking through ringing a bell after deaths, theorizes the women are being frightened, reroutes the priest. Still nothing. The mortality rate doesn't move. Then everything changes. A close friend of his, a pathologist named Jakub Kolechka, accidentally cuts his finger during an autopsy. Within days, he's dead. And the symptoms that killed him, the fever, the inflammation, the deterioration, are identical to what's killing mothers in the first division. So here's the question that changes medical history. What if the doctors themselves are the disease? What if medical students, walking straight from dissecting corpses to examining women in labor, are carrying something invisible on their hands? Semmelweis calls it cadaverous material. He has no microscope strong enough to see what we now call bacteria, no concept of germs at all. But he doesn't need to see it to act on it. He orders every doctor and student to wash their hands in chlorinated lime, not soap, something strong enough to strip away the literal smell of death before touching a single patient. And the results are almost unbelievable. In April of 1847, before the policy, mortality sits at over 18%. By June, it drops to 2.2. By July, just 1.2. Within a year, there are months where the death rate hits 0 for the first time since the clinic opened. Think about what that means. With nothing but a basin of chlorinated water, one man is single-handedly saving more lives than almost anyone else in the history of medicine up to that point. Without a microscope, without any theory of germs, he has accidentally founded the entire practice of antiseptic medicine, decades before anyone else. So naturally, he's celebrated as a hero, right? Wrong. Completely wrong. And this is where the story turns from triumph into tragedy. The problem is, Semmelweis can prove hand-washing works, but he can't explain why. He has no theory, no mechanism, nothing the scientific establishment can hang their hat on. And to the doctors of Vienna, the idea that they, gentlemen, professionals, are unknowingly poisoning their patients with their own hands isn't just wrong, it's insulting. His superior dismisses him. Political turmoil in Vienna gives his enemies an excuse to push him out entirely. Denied a teaching post, he eventually leaves the city, retreating to Hungary, his discovery essentially buried with him. For over a decade, he tries to make the world listen. He writes letters, gives lectures. The rejection only sharpens his anger, and his letters grow furious, accusing other doctors outright of being murderers. Not because he's cruel, but because he can see with absolute clarity that his silence is costing thousands of women their lives. By the 1860s, something inside him breaks. Colleagues notice erratic behavior. an obsession with childbed fever that consumes every conversation. Historians point to exhaustion, others to dementia or syphilis. Whatever the cause, by 1865 his own family fears he's losing his mind. So here's the final cruel twist. His colleagues trick him. Under the pretense of visiting a new medical institute, a former friend leads him straight into a Viennese insane asylum. Semmelweis realizes what's happening and tries to fight his way out. The guards beat him, force him into a straitjacket, and lock him in a darkened cell. 2 weeks later, he's dead. The cause? A gangrenous wound on his right hand, very likely from the struggle with those guards. The autopsy reveals blood poisoning. The man who discovered that an invisible infection could kill through nothing but contact dies from exactly that. An infection in his own hand that proper care could have prevented. It's almost too ironic to be real, but it's exactly what happened. And here's the part that should really stop you. Within just a few years of his death, Louis Pasteur proves germs exist. Joseph Lister applies that idea to surgery and revolutionizes it completely. The exact theory Semmelweis was missing arrives right behind him, far too late for anyone to ever tell him he'd been right all along. So what do we take from a story like this? It's not really about hand-washing. It's about what happens when the data is undeniable, but doesn't fit the story people already believe about themselves. Semmelweis didn't fail because his science was wrong. He failed because being right wasn't enough. Sometimes the hardest thing to prove isn't a fact. It's that the people in power might be the ones causing the harm.
If this story moved you, like this video and subscribe. It's the only way more forgotten lives like mine get told. If you still have questions, leave them in the comments below. I'll be there, even if it took 200 years for anyone to listen.